Hello, everyone. I'm Joanna Kowalewska, and today I have a great pleasure of talking to Layne Dalfen, that has been working with dreams and dreamers for over 50 years. So imagine how much experience she has and going to be sharing this experience with us today. She founded the Dream Interpretation Center in 1997, and her interest in dreams stems from her early experience in Freudian analysis, where Dreamwork was the primary tool. Layne's wrote two books that are titled Have a Great Dream Book 1 and Have a Great Dream Book 2. And the first one is more an overview of working with dream, where the other one goes much deeper into a dream work. And what I love about her work is that her core message is about how the solutions to our current problem appear to us first through our dreams, which is what I'm doing and speaking about in this podcast. Is how our dreams can really help us to solve many problems and crises in our life. So welcome, Layne. I'm really happy that you are here with us today.
Thank you, Joanna. I'm so happy you invited me.
So let's just dive right into it. Would you like to share with us, like, how did it all started? Your work with dreams, your interest in dreams, your path?
Well, I guess the first thing to say is that I have four daughters and four granddaughters. And my first daughter, Tina, was born just after my 21st birthday. And she was born with Down syndrome. And I was 21 years old. I had never even heard of Down syndrome, which was good because I had a very relaxing pregnancy. I never even realized what to worry about. And so it was really a relaxed time for me that took a really rude turn, especially since I never even heard of Down syndrome. 52 years ago, most people did not take their Downs babies home. They had them institutionalized. That was normal in the 70s.
Yeah.
And my parents wanted me to know that if we decide to take Tina home, we have their full support. And if we decide to give her up, we have their full support. So they refused to advise me. And I ended up going to the doctor who brought me up. He was my GP since I was an infant, and I trusted him. And he said, no, you're not taking Tina home. And she was born very premature, so I had time to make a decision. But he advised us not to take her home, and I took his advice. And so about 3 or 4 months later, of course, it makes sense that I became depressed. And I was very fortunate to obtain the care of a brilliant Freudian psychoanalyst who had just moved to Montreal, which is where I'm from, and he had moved here from New York. And when I was in my early 20s, I used to go to the sessions with this psychoanalyst. I wasn't very good at articulating my feelings, but I'm a dreamer. And I used to go to the sessions with him, always arriving with a dream. And so that was the place where I actually experienced Freud before I studied him. I experienced him. And so one day I started having a recurring dream. I'm just going to tell you the dream because it opens the door for you to understand why I became so interested in dream analysis. I started having a recurring dream of being in a freight elevator. And I don't know if you have the same kind of freight elevators, but here in North America, they are often very big space, and not just a very big space, but there's a second floor often that rises above inside the elevator, and it wobbles.
Wow.
And
No, I'm not familiar with such elevators. Not at all.
Yeah. And that was the same thing in my vocabulary, my personal vocabulary of memory that is the same thing as me saying to myself, I don't feel like I have my ground because I'm wobbling and and the space is too big. And so it turns out the reason and I will talk more about this later, but without going deep, because I love Freud and I love Jung, but before I go deep, I always stay surface. And at the surface level, every dream is triggered by something that happened to you yesterday or something that you thought about yesterday.
Okay.
So I learned that from him. And so the current situation that triggered the dreams that I was having, the freight elevator dreams, were that after Tina was about 3 or 4 months old, inside, I realized this is not a good decision for me. I can't have a baby. And then it's like, where is she? I didn't even know where she was placed. And so the whole idea of never seeing her again, really, it did not fit for me. And that's why I started having the freight elevator dreams. And so it turned out that because the whole thing about me is that the solution to the issue that you are having a conversation with yourself about, and that's the dream. The dream is the conversation that takes place between your conscious and your unconscious mind. And the situation was the fact that I didn't like my decision about giving Tina up completely. And so then I look at the freight elevator. What is the solution to the freight elevator dream? I have 8 different ways of finding a solution in a dream, which we will talk about later. My favorite is to take the dream exactly as it is, and bring the dream outside to your waking life and solve the problem outside. And then you could get back inside. So the decision to the freight elevator dream for me was to invite people into the elevator. Because if you invite people in, 2 things happen. First of all, you're not alone in the elevator anymore. And the space is not big anymore because there's people filling up the space. And the other thing that happens is by inviting people in the elevator, you're putting weight on the floor and it stops wobbling. So the question for me was, who am I going to invite into the elevator? And just to give you an example of why I became so fascinated with dreams, is that freight elevator for me, which couldn't be the same for anybody else in the world. For me, it was because when I was a little girl, my father used to take me sometimes to his warehouse, to his office and his warehouse on the weekends. And there was a freight elevator there. And I was always nervous about the freight elevator, but I relaxed more because my father was with me. And so the link of what was happening when I was 21 years old linked me right back to my childhood and my father. And so I knew I needed to invite my parents into the elevator with me in a metaphoric way. And so I went to my parents and I said, I don't like that I don't see Tina and I don't know what she looks like or who she is or where she is. And they came with me to the place where she had been placed a little bit outside Montreal. And I did take Tina home. She died about 6 years ago. I never did take Tina home, but she was a very big part of my life. I will still say today, Tina is hands down the happiest person I ever met in my life, because she spent 0 time in the future where anxiety exists. And she spent 0 time in the past where regret lives.
That's so true.
Always in the present. and she was always so happy. And I'm sure her soul was way ahead of the rest
Seems
of
like
us.
it.
Yeah, because she was just always content in the present
Wow.
tense. But the freight elevator dream opened up a door for me about studying dreams. And somebody at the university here one day said to me, wow, if you like Freud, you would love Frederick Perls. So I went to the Gestalt Counseling and Training Center, and I earned my certificate in Gestalt counseling and became a Gestalt counselor. And I learned how he looked at dreams. And then when I turned 40, I went to the Alfred Adler Institute.
Mhm.
I studied how Alfred Adler looked at dreams. And then I became a member of the C.G. Jung Society. So the whole thing about me is that I am very eclectic in my approach to dream analysis, because it was just miraculous
Yeah.
for me. And it still is miraculous today. The information that you get every single morning when you wake up with the solution to the very specific current issue in your waking life that you are attempting to problem solve. And then once you see the surface situation and you find the surface solution for this week, then I have steps for you to be able to go deeper and dig for the gold.
Dig for the gold. Yeah, I love that. And I love that, after 50 years of working with dreams, you still sound so passionate about it, because it's like I am also obsessed with dreams and their power. Like, really, I can't even express sometimes to people that are maybe not interested or never thought about dreams as a tool for problem solving or growth or any kind of healing. It's like how dreams can really guide you and help you through the hardest moments in your life. And something that you said, I think it's very, very important to underline it. Like, you mentioned two things: that as a 21-year-old woman, you didn't maybe necessarily know yourself so well yet, or to express really what is going on, how you feeling, like what's really going on in your head, in your heart. But you had your dreams. So there it is for everyone who feels like maybe they don't really know what's going on with them. Like, how many times we walk this life and like, yes, something is going on with me, but I can pinpoint, I don't really know. So dreams
Right.
are just this absolutely incredible help in those places and those situations when we feel like that. And secondly, is that you found the right person, okay? Because I feel that unfortunately in the therapy world, still in many places, to find a therapist or counselor or whatever it's that has any knowledge about dreams, it's so rare. And this
It's
is
true.
and for me, this is like one of those things that I say, like, every therapist, no matter what methodology or what is the therapy really about, to have any knowledge about the power of dreams and why they are so important. Because when a client like that comes and they really don't know what to do with themselves, but they do remember their dreams, or they are encouraged to remember their dreams, I feel like you gain access to so much deeper places, like to your
So much
subconscious,
more.
things that
Yes,
you
and
can manage. Yeah.
I've been teaching dream analysis to the counseling students
Oh,
at
wonderful.
Concordia University here in Montreal for 20 years. And it's great because before they leave the department, at least they have a good sense of how the steps, because I'm all about the steps. I
All right. So let's
the
hear the steps.
method, a method, and I
Okay.
the method to these future therapists, and it's great because they walk out with the knowledge of how to do it. Because once you know how to do it, you never think about your dreams the same way again, because you can get a handle on it.
All right. So is that a method that you developed? Would you like to share with us?
Yes, I would love
All
to.
right.
And so, of course, once we accept, if you accept, which I ask you to accept, that at the first level, the dream is triggered by something that either happened to you yesterday or something that you thought about yesterday.
Okay.
The goal is not for me to tell you why you had that dream. The goal is for me to be able to ask you questions so that you could tell me what's going on in your life this week. It's the exact opposite of a psychic experience, because only the dreamer knows why they had that dream.
That's so important, what you said. And again, it must be highlighted, because I've heard some of your other interviews that we are on the same boat with the way of saying that you cannot interpret the dream for another person, because many times when people hear like, oh, dream worker or dream interpreter, dream analysis, they think, oh, I'm giving you a dream, you're going to tell me what is it about, or give me a dream dictionary. And I'm like,
you
super
have no way of knowing what happened to that person's life yesterday, or what they were thinking about yesterday. So the 6 points of entry are the feelings, the action, the symbols, the play on words and puns, because use puns and play on words as often in our sleep as we do in our waking life. The repetition, the plot, and I think I said it all. The feelings, the action, the symbols, the repetition, the puns, and the plot. So whenever I hear a dream, you will find for yourself also, once you know the 6 points of entry, when you hear a dream, you will be attracted to one of those 6 points of entry. They all work. It doesn't matter which one you're attracted to. They all get you somewhere. They may get you to a different place, but they all get you somewhere. And so if we talk about the feelings, here's one of my favorite feeling dreams, is this woman who dreams that she's in Turks and Caicos, and she's in the shallow water of the ocean, and it's very calm. And she's with a girlfriend of hers, and it's just beautiful with a calm ocean, and the sun is shining, and she's so happy. And all of a sudden, she looks over to her right and sees a massive tsunami wave. Now, the tsunami wave doesn't come in, but it's there, and she sees it. And so for me, I was looking at the feelings, but I'm also looking at the plot of the story. And I asked the dreamer, what do you think is happening in your life? Some situation where you are calm, or you're trying to stay calm, but you have a sense that there's something huge sitting there. And it doesn't seem to be moving in your dream, but you know that it's there. And she got it right away. It was that her husband, who had cancer, had a biopsy, and it was like 6 months later after he was diagnosed, and he had another biopsy, and they were waiting for the results of the biopsy. That's the tsunami. And this woman had promised herself, I am not going to make myself crazy until I get the results of the biopsy. I absolutely refuse to do that. And so that's the picture of her forcing herself to stay calm, but realizing that there's a tsunami in the distance, and using a symbol's point of entry. And so I asked her, what are the first 2 or 3 things that come to your mind about that girlfriend? Who is that girlfriend that was with you in the water? She said, she is calm, beautiful person. So there is the repetition. That's an example. She's in calm water with a calm girlfriend. And that was her making a decision to remain calm until she got the results of the test. And it's a good thing she did, because he doesn't have cancer. He's been in remission for years now. And so you see how once you understand what's the situation in your waking life, that the dream is reflecting, it is a perfect reflection. I'm trying to think of what that paper is called, when you write on a paper and it comes through.
it gives like a, yeah, I also don't know the name of this
And
paper, but I
remember the
know what
name.
you refer to. Yeah.
That's exactly what a dream
Yeah.
is. Once you reveal it, you could lift the piece of paper and see the drawing underneath is the situation from your waking life that the dream is reflecting. So that is a feelings point of entry dream. And at the same time, it gives you an example of a repetition happening in the dream, and also using the symbols, because the girlfriend is someone that the dreamer associated with as being very
Yeah.
calm, very calm.
You know, for me also, like, because the tsunami never came, I would probably also see it as maybe, of course, you can never know, but I would take it maybe as like a positive sign, right? Maybe
Right,
some encouragement also from my dream that maybe it won't come. Like you see it's there, but it doesn't come, right? So
exactly.
often in the dreams, when we have also maybe like scary or anxiety dreams, nightmares, and so on, I like to ask, but how did it end? Like, did really something happen to you, or you were able to avoid it, or the dream ended before, or so on and so on? And many times the person tells me that maybe the dream was scary, but like the final scene or the final result was okay. And I like to bring the person to the moment to say, like, okay, so yeah, something is really going on and it's scary. But look, your dream eventually ended up okay, or even positively. And it's
Right.
something that I also like to underline when working with dreams.
Sometimes you see the solution. Like in the freight elevator dream, we
Right.
could not see the solution.
Yes.
And actually, in her dream, you couldn't. But sometimes you see the solution because you see the dreamer doing what needs to be done, and it gives them a direction to move in.
Obviously, for you and me, discussing dreams and symbols is like our everyday cup of tea. But like if person tells you, I really want to understand, and I'm even willing to try your method, right? The entry point. But it seems like the symbols, like I don't know how to decode them. Like what advice would you give to a person that's asking this question?
So we're talking about symbols, which is another point of entry. So let's talk about the ballot dream, which is another favorite of mine.
All right.
And so this woman dreams that and it was during the American elections. And so she's dreaming that there's somebody passing out ballots to everybody in the room except her. She's the only one who doesn't get a ballot. And so I asked her, if I was a little girl, this is very like Gail Delaney, who's a very well-known dream analyst. And so I use that method often, that I'll ask the dreamer, if I'm a little girl and I have no idea what a ballot is, could you explain to me what it is? And that's how you reveal what the dreamer's associations to that word or image are. And she said, well, you know, when you vote for somebody that you like, you go into a booth and you get a ballot and it's your choice, your voice. That's how she said it. And so I was asking questions once I heard that. I was asking questions around, what do you think is going on in your life these days where you don't really feel like you have a vote? You know, you don't have a ballot. And
Totally.
because a few years before, she was dating a man who is an alcoholic. And then they broke off. And of course, during that period of time in her life, it was a bad time for her friends and her parents, because she was always crying and complaining, and till she got to the place where she broke off the relationship finally. And about 2 weeks before the election, she ran into this guy again, and he said that he had stopped drinking and she still had an attraction to him. And she was thinking that she would maybe like to get back together again with him and try it on for size. But she knew inside, this is not going to work very well. She was afraid to tell her parents and her friends that she was considering getting back together with him again. And so that's why she doesn't get a ballot. But dreaming that she was missing a ballot, which Alfred Adler talks about, what's missing in the dream. And so it encouraged her to speak up and say to her parents, to give herself the vote. She spoke up to her friends and her parents and said, I ran into him again. He says he's not drinking anymore, and I'm going to try it on again. So she gave herself the vote, you know, and so that's a great example of how you could use a symbol. And we also saw it with me and my freight elevator.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Totally.
And you see it with the tsunami wave. Also, something that you have no control over. That's the thing about a tsunami, just like a cancer diagnosis. Yeah. You have no control over what is coming, what's going to come at you, right?
Yeah, I feel that often, like any kind of natural disaster dreams, for me, often they represent that it's exactly that it's something of a great force that I don't have control over. So when I personally dream about natural disasters, the first thing that I ask myself is like, what do I feel that right now I don't have control over? It's maybe, something that's bigger than me, like a war, right, for example, right?
There will always be somebody or something in the dream that gives you a reason or a method or a behavior that you want to lean into. You want to tap into that, just like the tsunami dream. She's with a very calm girlfriend. So she has that girlfriend to access her own ability inside herself to remain calm.
Do you think it also can be like our behavior in the dream that's often it's not what we would do in the waking life? Like I feel that sometimes, I would like your take on that, that sometimes we dream of something, certain situation, something is happening, and we act in a way that perhaps we wouldn't act in a waking life. Like it's something that it's maybe even opposite to what we are or who we are. And then I feel that sometimes that can also be the indication that the dream world is inviting us to lean toward maybe the behavior that we usually wouldn't because of our personality.
That's right. And that's what I call a rehearsal dream.
Rehearsal dream. Okay, tell me more about it.
Dream gives you an opportunity to rehearse a behavior or a feeling in the safety of the dream. And when you get, same as you would rehearse for a play that you're going to put on, same thing. So you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse in the safety of the dream. And when you get comfortable with the behavior, you take it outside to waking life. And I'm just going to jump a little deeper for a moment. And we could go back if you want to finish the different points of entry, but I'm just going to interrupt myself to go a little deeper and say this, that when we are born, and this is my opinion, I'm not saying this as a fact, but it's an opinion based on 50 years of looking at this subject, that when we are born, we arrive in the world whole. We have everything. We have a plethora of potential, I call it, a plethora of possibilities. You could be shy, you could be assertive, you could be a hero, you can be a chicken, you could be selfish, you could be giving, or maybe you were the comedian in the family, and maybe you're a person who's more serious, and maybe you are always inviting people somewhere, organizing. Maybe you're the organizer, or maybe you're the person who's always receiving the phone call that's inviting you somewhere. So we come into the world with everything. And the people that bring us up teach us that it's better to be one way than another way. And so we learn to become what I call over-exercised in some aspects of our personality and under-exercised in other aspects of our personality. And I do not say this with judgment. There is no judgment, and there is no good, no bad, no right, and no wrong, not in my life. There's no such thing as good or bad or right or wrong. When I wake up in the morning after I've had a dream, all I want to ask myself is my response to this situation, not always, this situation, is my response appropriate or not? Because the only problem we have with our over-exercised or under-exercised aspects of our personality is that life throws you so many different situations in your life that you want to be able to access what you need on a situation by situation basis. So if you're somebody like me that was brought up with a lesson, do not open up that mouth. Because in my house, that was considered disrespectful. My father was a European, and worse, a Romanian. So you
I have Polish parents, and it was the same. So
same thing, yeah.
Same.
And my mother was born in Montreal, but it doesn't matter because she was brought up by Europeans. So it was like a European household. And I learned to become over-exercised in shutting up and under-exercised in speaking up. And so you want to be able to access your voice. So if I now at 73, if I now go to a bank manager because I want to borrow money from him and I don't really like his tone of voice, my over-exercised knee-jerk response to shut up fits. It fits. I want money from the guy. I'm not here to fight with him. But if one of my daughters or my husband start being very rude to me today, I need to be able to access my ability to speak up for myself. It's not the same as the bank manager. So your life throws you every different kind of situation: job changes, divorce, bringing up children, cancer, second marriages. I mean, blended families. There's so many life situations that you get thrown, and you don't want to be stuck with your same boring, knee-jerk, over-exercised responses to life. And so the people that appear in your dream, or the behavior that you're displaying in the dream, which is what you were talking about, when you're behaving in the dream different than what you're accustomed to, it is an opportunity for you to exercise a new muscle. That's what it is. And it's never by accident that certain people appear in your dream on a certain night. They are there for a reason. So it's true that if I feel rejected by my husband, Andy, if he said something to me yesterday that made me feel rejected, then I might dream about a boyfriend that I had when I was 16 years old who rejected me because they are together in the same file. They're in the same filing cabinet in my unconscious. So it's the rejection aspect of how I'm feeling. So I dream about this guy that I haven't seen in so many years, but it taps me to the waking situation this week. And it gives me an encouragement to speak, to bring the subject up with my husband about what happened yesterday that made me feel a certain way.
I also believe that dream character, they don't just appear because, and especially it's interesting when we dream about someone that we haven't thought about in a really long time, or we didn't even remember this person. Like it happens sometimes, as you say, with like old school friends or something like that. And for me, I'm also very curious, especially when I dream about people that I haven't thought or I haven't been in touch with for a very long time, because I know that there must be something to it, because as you said, it's not by chance that we dream about a specific person.
And I would add to that, that we are multitasking. And so sometimes, not sometimes, often, the person appearing in the dream will point you to the waking situation, like the guy who rejected me when I was 16 years old. He points me to today's situation with my husband and that I felt rejected yesterday. But that person's appearance also at the same time simultaneously points you to the solution. Because what I need to do is not be sad and depressed necessarily that I felt rejected. Maybe I need to access my ability to do a little bit of rejecting. Maybe he's also the solution. The appearance of that person points me to the waking situation today, but they also possibly point me to a behavior that I need to access. To not always be the person is, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Which is my more over-exercised part.
Over-exercised quality. I really like how you...
Under-exercised part, I don't like you. I don't love you. Maybe I need to access that under-exercised part. But once you start exercising all these different parts of your personality and you get stronger in all these different potential that you have, then you become very powerful because nobody ever really knows how you might respond.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, you are always a surprise.
Yeah, I love that because I love surprises and I love changes. So yeah, I'm gonna give a thought about what you said about the over-exercise qualities. I think it's a really nice way of looking at ourselves, right? Because it's not judgmental way. And also at the same time, the way you describe it, it also keeps the door open for, yeah, this is just over-exercise. It doesn't mean maybe that on the other side, there is nothing to do about it, right? Like you cannot do anything about the quality that you don't have right now. It's just under-exercise. So I really love that.
Right, and the dream gives you the first opportunity to take whatever behavior that is to the gym. Like my mouth, like my ability to speak. That's what I do to the gym.
And would you say that also because of this type of dream, you actually pay attention to something that maybe otherwise you would miss or disregard? What I mean by that is that maybe you were hurt, but you are just, burying it under the carpet, like we do many times when we feel something, but we're just like, that's not a big deal, like whatever, like I am overreacting and so on. But then you dreamt about it and then you say, I think maybe it's like bigger than I thought, right?
Exactly. And it is because the more you push something away, the bigger the dream is. That's how a nightmare happens.
No, that's what I also believe.
We humans, we lie, we deny, we avoid, and we sweep. I call it welcome to the human race. And so this is it's not a judgment. It's just who we are as human beings. And so the dream, whatever it is that you are underreacting to, oh, that person didn't hurt me. Oh, it's not a big deal.
Exactly.
Need to speak up about it. The dream is going to overreact, and two things happen. One, you create a balance because we are self-regulating organisms. So you create a balance. And the second thing that happens is hopefully the dream grabs your attention. And it wants your attention because it wants you to do something about the fact that you are avoiding.
Exactly. And the avoiding part and what you just said about our qualities as humans, I mean, I totally agree with that. And I think it's just, obviously it's simplifying, but this is what kind of living in a modern society sometimes requires of us, to mold ourselves to certain expectation and to keep our feelings guarded and so on and so on. And that's why I feel that when someone has access to their own dreams, this is so powerful because if imagine, like, let's say any other kind of talk therapy, right? Someone comes and they talk, but it's only the conscious mind talking, right? It's only the thing that we can talk, or that we didn't deny or disown, or we that too ashamed to face them. But if you ask
Right.
someone about their dream, the dreams don't lie. That's what I always say.
Oh, they
Dreams
never
don't lie.
lie.
So if I want to really know something about someone, I will ask them about what they're dreaming, because there is no hiding there. There's no lying there.
Right.
And that's why I feel like it's so powerful, because of how society is working and maybe how we were brought up. And for any other cultural, religious, or whatever reason, we are taught, as you said, to minimize our certain qualities or think that some things are not okay about us, and so on and so on. And in dreams, it all comes up, and it comes up as a dream, and then it comes up as a nightmare, right? Because I always say, like, nightmares are the dream that are just very loud because you have not been paying attention. So only when it's very scary, then you suddenly start to pay attention to that. And it's not nice, but sometimes it's necessary, as you said, to grab our attention.
I always like to say that I'm not here to tell you that change is easy. It is not easy, but I am here to say that change is possible. And it happens on a little by little basis. So 30 years ago, that my husband one day was yelling at me, and I was saying nothing. I was not responding because I was behaving the way I was brought up. And so that morning that I dreamed about an aunt of mine who had already been passed on like 15 years earlier. But using the symbols, I asked myself, what comes to my mind when I think about that aunt? And I will give you the same answer today, 30 years later, that I gave myself back then. I would say she had the biggest mouth of anybody I ever met. She was so assertive. And so I'm saying nothing in real life. He's yelling at me and I said nothing. So I dream about the most assertive person I know all the way over there. And that is your unconscious trying to pull you in the middle. So I'm not going to become her overnight. Change is not easy. I need to go to the gym and exercise that muscle a little bit for the first time. So because I understood her appearance in the dream, the next morning I woke up and I said, something small. You were yelling at me last night and I didn't say anything to you. Could you please not do that? Because it makes me feel like I'm 7 years old and I'm with my father again. And I don't want to feel like that. So that was the first time. That's what it looks like when you practice a very new behavior that you are not accustomed to. But I promise you, the more you practice, the better you get.
Like with everything, right? And also important thing that we didn't say it specifically, but I can see that from everything we're speaking here now, is that there is also what's required from us. It's looking at the dream, understanding our dream, but then there is part of taking an action, right? Because we may, okay, so I maybe need to, say what I think more often and then do nothing. So it's kind of like we are wasting an important opportunity there, right?
Right. But if there's not closure, you are going to get more dreams that are pushing you along in a certain way. No question about it.
Yeah, exactly. So the action part is also important, no matter how small it is. I always ask my clients and people that share dreams with me, it's like, okay, so what is even the small thing that you think you can do today, tomorrow, to act on the insights that you got from your dream? Because only analyzing and understanding and writing it down, I mean, it's the first step, but then what we're going to do about that and how it's really going to,
And I will give you another method.
All right.
From a deeper perspective to help trigger change, to help trigger movement. And that is that once you have a dream and you've analyzed it on the surface level, you might want to do Freud's free association, which means, like, those lottery, the lottery ball cage? Or bingo, that with all the balls bouncing up and down. And it's very similar to that image about all the memories that you've had since you're born. They are all bumping around in your unconscious mind. And so you sit back in a chair and you relax and you close your eyes and you think about the feelings that the dream you had brings up to the surface. And I accept memories from when you were 20 or 25 or 30. I accept those memories, but the best ones are the ones that go farther back to childhood. And I promise you, the right bingo ball is going to pop out, because when you're thinking about how the tsunami dream made you feel, and you're focused on that feeling of having something there, and then you just close your eyes, you are going to get a memory, and it will always be the right one. Something from childhood. And then you could be discussing, what is that memory? How did my parents or the people that brought me up, how did they react to that situation that popped out of my memory in doing this exercise? Because when you are an adult and you're looking back at how the adults in your life responded to you as a child, now you are in the advantageous position of deciding if you agree with how they responded, because perhaps you don't agree with how they responded. And the second that you make a different decision than they did, there is this shift. It's like a shift in the earth, your underground earth. There's a small shift that takes place. And once that shift happens, it's like I always say to people, you know how once you know something, you can never go back to not knowing, because you know now something and you can never erase what you know. You can't go backwards. And so once you know that about yourself, your adult self has made a different decision about your child self. And so it's automatic that a change is going to take place. You can't get away from it. It's automatic, because you can never go back to not knowing.
Yeah, and that's very profound what you just said. And I think also very encouraging, because as you said, like even the smallest thing, right, can be a beginning of a big change. And I believe that our dreams are just those invitations to maybe take a first step in something that we can't change, or we are scared to change, or we don't even know that we wish some things were different for ourselves, and our dreams can show us that. So I always say, it's like, I can't praise dreams more, but this is,
And I would just add that same exercise with the bouncing balls, the cage of balls, you can do it with Freud, where you're thinking of a personal memory, but you can also do it with Jung. And in that case, you do the same thing, where you relax yourself and think of the story of your dream that you had last night. But now, instead of a personal memory, you want to think about a story or a TV show or a movie or a book or something that reminds you of the story of your dream, because the lesson is always there. And that's like a Jungian approach, where you think about a story or a book and then look at that story and see, what is the lesson in the story? And then you could take that lesson and apply it to your situation this week. And you never want to judge. Like, you don't ever want to judge, because I know, like, that Layne, that child in me, she's never going away. She's always going to be there. And I want to be a good mother to her. And I want to be kind to her. And how many life situations are there where it's good to stay quiet? There's many times where my over-exercised parts, not just the bank manager, there's many times in life especially with how divided people are on this earth today, so divided about their opinions. And it's not always the best idea to speak up.
I agree.
Sometimes it's okay to stay quiet. So, and also the fact that we have zero power over changing anybody else except yourself. You are powerful about changing yourself, and you have zero power over changing somebody else. So there are many situations where speaking up is the best response to the waking situation. And there are also many situations where staying quiet is the better choice. You want to give yourself all the choices.
Exactly. I think it's a great way to wrap up this conversation. I also believe in what you said completely, that having the range of choices, not judging which one of them is better, it's the right way to go. And yeah, I want to say thank you for sharing your wisdom and your dreams and your experiences with us today. And if you can add where our listeners can find more about your work, about your workshops, your books.
My books are called Have a Great Dream. I just realized.
Ah, wonderful. We can even see them.
I have one behind me. This
Amazing.
is what they look like. Have a Great Dream. Book one is the overview, and it talks about the method, and it's very similar to the discussion that we had today. But I also give you dream maps, and I show you how to map out a dream so you know for sure what that dream was about and finding the solutions. And then the second book is got the same cover. It's also Have a Great Dream, Book 2, a deeper discussion. And my site, you could get to my site at thedreamanalyst.com. And you can also get to my site with the name of the books, haveagreatdream.com. And it gets you to the same place. And I'm a speaker. I speak at parties and I do private consultations. And so you can get to me when you go to my site. You'll see there's an array of choices that you have about looking at your dreams.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Layne. And have a great dreams to everyone. No?
Exactly. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to speak with you, Joanna.
Thank you so much.